introduction to this group because everybody remembers you so well. I think you were twice with us last year because we had so much to talk about, and it's my absolute pleasure, our absolute pleasure, to have you back this evening because you've got loads more to talk to us about, haven't you? What's going on at the moment? It is. What's going on at the moment? So I noticed today you said the Feng Shui new year, the new Chinese New Year, or the Lunar New Year. Also, there's an awful lot going on in the world, and you had told us about this time last year. You said that it would take some time for things to settle down. Do you want to get straight into giving us an idea, and then later I want to hear about what you're up to at the moment, what's happening in your world?
Oh, thanks so much, Trina. Yes, no, we're thankfully we're now out of the year of the tiger, and I was saying last year that with the tiger year, unfortunately, that brings on war, and basically we've seen an awful lot of situations arise throughout the world now where war seems to be imminent in some countries, and obviously it actually happened more or less directly after the Lunar New Year began in 2022. So the good news is that we are now out of the year of the tiger, and we've now started a brand new Lunar New Year. We haven't started the Feng Shui year yet, but we have started the Lunar New Year. And we're calling it the Lunar New Year now because the term Chinese New Year would obviously mean that other nationalities and other peoples would not be included in that. So that's why it's now called the Lunar New Year. And of course, we know that it starts when the new moon begins. So that began last Sunday, the 22nd, sorry, it's last Sunday week now, the 22nd. And that's going to go on now until around the 9th, I think it is, of February 2024. So, we've got a lovely year this year now. It's a different year entirely to the year of the tiger, because of course, the year itself, it's known as the year of the cat, the rabbit, or the hare. And it's a water year, so small furry animal, and as a result that means that it's not an aggressor like the tiger. Now the Chinese greatly believe in the tiger wreaking havoc with people's health and their finances and opportunities and prosperity and so on, whereas with the year of the cat, it's a much more docile year. And I call it the year of the cat because when I learned about the lunar years, I actually learned Vietnamese horoscope, so it was a little bit different to the Chinese horoscopes.
I see. And you mentioned something there a minute ago, Nina, where you said it was the water rabbit. So
Yes.
So now this was something that I hadn't known about before, that in Chinese or Eastern philosophy that there are 5 elements. Do you want to just say a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah, because you've hit on something so important. This overrides everything else. Because basically all energy is based on 5 types of energy, and the 5 types of energy are water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And of course, with those 5 elements, all of us are born within years that where we have a personal element that belongs to that year of our birth. So for instance, if you were born in, we'll say 1961, and I'm just taking that randomly, 1961 was the year of the metal ox. So if your element was metal, then with it being a water year, water interacts with metal in a certain way. It means that you might not be able to spread your wings and fly, but it's actually not a bad year for somebody who's metal. So regardless of the personality of the small furry animal or the tiger or any other year, at the end of the day, the element actually really decides how the year is going to go for you. So if your element is wood at the moment, water is very good for you because water supports wood. It nourishes plants, it nourishes trees, and we all do very, very well if we belong to the wood elements. You really do need to know what year was your year of birth, what element rather belonged to the year that you were born. And that way then you can more or less foretell how the year will go for you. And you can understand why I'm talking about the elements in this way, because it's so easy to understand it when I say if your element was fire, a water year is not much good for a fire person because water quenches fire. So this is a year for fire people to lie low and do less.
Makes sense. And you've just mentioned there, funnily enough, you mentioned 1961. That's me. So I was a metal ox, and my sister is this year, she turned 60 this year, and she was a water rabbit year, I believe. So it's 60 years since there was a water rabbit year. Is that right? Do you know
is
that? Yes, yeah. So is that a good year for water rabbits, basically?
No, that changes completely. Once it becomes your year, the one thing that people don't realize is that that's the time when you need to lie low. That's
Yeah.
when your energy is going to be lower because your immune system is now in a very low place. So the most important thing is that when the year comes around that belongs to you, whether you're an ox or born in the year of the rabbit or born in the year of the tiger, if it is the year of the tiger and you've been born in the year of the tiger, then that's the time not to do anything. Don't do anything major. Don't make big decisions. You're going to be extra tired in yourself. You're going to need to sleep more, eat a balanced diet, and ensure that you get plenty of rest, that you de-stress, that you detox, and that you look after yourself more. And it's also time not to make any major financial decisions, because if you do, you'll probably make a big mistake and get it very, very wrong and lose money.
Okay.
So very simple list of things not to do. And that is, don't try and launch a business, for instance. Don't try and move money from different accounts, or, you know, change from stock markets to other investments, or sell property or buy property or build your own house, because these are major life-changing decisions. And very often the results are very poor if you make those decisions during the year. And the other thing is, don't dig the garden. Don't clean the soil, don't transplant a plant, don't do any of that, because if your health energy is low, then, you know, Earth's energies are stronger than your energies anyway. But if you handle the soil, if you touch the ground and handle plants and dig them up and dig the ground for your own house or something like that, then you're going to end up with some problems regarding your health. So try not to do anything when it's your year.
That's very interesting. I can see a lot of people, their brains click. Excuse me, because my dog wants to sit up in my lap. Excuse me. A lot of people I can see are really thinking about that. And I was asking you about my sister, and you know, she was thinking of retiring this year. And she was born in the year of the water rabbit, so that may well be something she'd have to reconsider. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, retirement in its way, you know, that depends. That depends. You're not really making too many decisions. In a way, everything is sort of fairly cut and dried, isn't it? And you are taking time out for yourself.
Well, this is true. Yes. And in fact, maybe the best thing for her is to give herself lots of spa dates and massages and opportunities to really rest and do lots of lovely self-care stuff. That's okay. That's great. So that's where we are. Is there anything else we should know about this? You know, because I know, Nina, you're really good. You have a real, what would we say, intuitive understanding also. It's not just that you know so much about these things. You do pick things up very intuitively. Last year when we were talking, you mentioned that, you know, things would take some time to settle down, that we thought we'd come through COVID and out the other side. Then obviously we had the Ukraine war. Is there anything we should know? Yes, definitely hopeful stuff, but also anything we should prepare ourselves for?
Well, I really do think that we have a very short window of opportunity between now and when the Feng Shui New Year kicks in. Now, the Feng Shui New Year, by the way, everyone, starts on the 4th of February. I'm sure you probably remember that from last year. So it's different to the lunar year. The Feng Shui year kicks in on after midnight on the 4th of February. So from the 22nd of January until the 4th of February, we actually had a window of opportunity when I think reconciliation or talks at the table and negotiations may have been, you know, it might have been possible to negotiate some kind of peace deal. But actually, you know, that window is so small and this problem is so big that we also have other issues. So this year, coming into the year of the water rabbit, there are 4 things you should know. Number one, there's a star that sort of flies into the middle of our homes, if you like. It's the overriding star. It's called the annual star. And that star actually decides the overall picture and the influence of that energy for the year. And unfortunately, it isn't such a good energy. It's actually all about conflict and litigious situations and aggression and arguments and legal matters and things to be ironed out. But the year of the cat is one that is calm, cool, collected. You know, if you look at the personality of the animal, you'll always know more or less what to expect for the year itself, because when you've got a lovely animal that's cool, calm and collected in a crisis, and one who's more amiable and sociable and independent and you know, easy to get along with, popular socially, then you know, you can see that that's going to have a good influence on the year. So it's usually considered a year of patience and consolidation, and you know, everybody sort of pulling together, and a very peaceful year, usually quite successful for people. So I do see this year as a better year than last year, in lots of ways. But that star, unfortunately, is there. So we have to kind of be aware of that. So the one thing I would say is we also have this issue of a 20-year period ending in 2020, at the end of 2023, at the end of this year, and a brand new 20-year period starting. So there's a very strong pull of energy, like a sort of polar opposites pull of energy. So you're going to get people turning very, very, very kind indeed, and doing good deeds, and you know, the random acts of kindness that you see around you, that sort of thing. And then you're going to get the polar opposite of that. You're going to get people who are going to be very difficult, perhaps a little bit nasty. So, you know, unfortunately, we're just going to have to learn how to bite our tongues and put up with that, because that overriding sort of influence is there to encourage people to go one way or the other. And always, you know, it is a decision. It's a personal decision, isn't it?
Mm.
All of us, to be either kind or not so kind.
Yeah, and we can be more aware of it when we see it in other people. It's ourselves, we perhaps, you know, are very reluctant to see any real changes like that in us. So maybe if we're feeling that way, we might understand it a bit more, be a little bit more compassionate about it, and work a little better. So do
Yeah.
you think we should excuse me, adopt a more kind of feline, what would we say, elegant, you know, relaxed way of,
Relaxed, casual,
yeah,
so very laid back and easygoing,
yeah.
and cool, calm, and collected in a crisis. You know,
Mm,
that's the kind of thing now that we should see this year, even in politics,
mm.
and even in all areas, actually, across the board. We'll see a lot more calm. And I do think it will be a peaceful and successful year for many. But obviously, fire people are going to suffer, unfortunately. But then, you know, better to know when it's not such a good time to be doing things. It's better to lie low and just take a break and do the easy things the easy way,
Mm.
and don't get stressed, and obviously look after your health. I mean, that's the key thing for fire people, and it is the key thing for anyone born in the year of the cat, rabbit, or hare.
Aha, okay. So that's everybody warned now. All right. So look, Nina, also where we've come, we've arrived at that sort of beautiful part of the year, the spring. It's probably the most hopeful part of all. And we in Ireland in particular, we were just saying we absolutely, I mean, literally a second past midnight on the 1st of February. And it doesn't matter what the meteorologists say, or what is the official spring. As far as we're concerned, it's spring tomorrow morning, first thing. And so how do we change? How do we adapt to the sort of new energy of spring? What would you suggest?
Well, there's a couple of things as well to add on to what I was saying, because that does come into play.
Okay.
So firstly, one of the biggest things that I always say to people at the start of a year like this is try not to sit with your back facing the bad energies, because every year bad energy comes along as well as good. And we have to be aware of that. So this year in particular, the West and the Southwest are afflicted with misaligned energies. So you shouldn't be seated facing east, because then you would be to the west, or facing northeast, because then your back is going to be facing southwest. So make a point of changing the dining seats, changing particularly the chair that you work from, whether that's in an office or from your home office, or if you're studying, anywhere at all that you sit at work, make sure that you're not seated facing east, or you will be stabbed in the back by your
Nina, I'm laughing. I took my compass out. I am directly east. I mean, you are literally east of me right now.
I
Sitting here.
need to flip you around quick.
I'm going to have to move my table. And so where should we be facing?
So you can face any direction that suits you. Of course, you know, I don't know everybody's date of birth, but we all have 4 best directions and 4 worst directions.
Okay.
But during certain years, you don't face certain directions. So that would mean even if you were sitting up in bed at night reading, make sure that your back is not facing to one of those 2 misaligned directions. It also means that you shouldn't stimulate the energy in those 2 sectors. So for instance, if your bedroom is in that sector, maybe you have a guest room you can sleep in instead this year. Anyone who's got a front door, a bedroom, an office, or any important rooms in those areas, they're going to be ringing me this year, because they're going to have the problems. And it's going to be heightened in May and June. That's when things will get more difficult. So May, June are terrible months for everybody. I might go through a quick calendar with you actually and just help you as regards what to do.
How about that, everybody? Yes, please do. If that suits you, Nina, that'd be lovely.
So basically, and it's a bit funny, sometimes these things really do fit in with how we should live and what we should be doing. But basically for January and February, one of the things I always say is clear the gutters, clean them out, because gutters and money are directly related. So, whatever you do, make sure you don't have stagnant water in pots and bowls and plant pots lying around the place outside. Very, very important to empty them and turn them upside down. You should have stagnant water anyway. It will affect your finances very directly. And of course, at the moment, that's the one area that people are really suffering with. So we have to watch our money more carefully. But January and February, particularly February, actually, February is a money month. So it's a very good time to be launching something new. And because it's the start of the year, because the energy in Mother Nature is, there's a little switch that gets flicked on, and Mother Nature's energies rise up, and the first day of spring occurs on the 4th of February. So Mother Nature's first day of spring is the 4th of February. We might call it first, but Mother Nature.
Let's impose it on her. So 4th of February it is. Yes. Okay.
Spring, if you like. Feng Shui Spring Day is the 4th of February. So what's going to happen is the energies slowly keep rising until we reach summer, and then they start to diminish again as we come to the latter part of the year. So obviously our energies become more heightened as well. We become more uplifted the more light we have, the longer days and so on. And that's all in keeping with nature anyway. But February is an excellent month to be doing all we can to make money, work hard. You reap what you sow. So sow those seeds in February. And of course, the same goes for planting anything. A lot of people have taken to planting their own foodstuffs now. So if you have decided to plant crops, or, just plant up a herb garden or a few veggies in the backyard, then make sure that you wait until the 4th of February or after before you plant seeds. It's really very important, because the crop you're maximizing nature, you're using nature's energies.
Okay.
So January and February, January is also a difficult month now, because so that's why the chants of reconciliation and talks of peace and so on, you can get, especially when you get this nasty energy as well as this kind energy. So for instance, we've seen a little bit of that when Ukraine thought that they had spoken of peace talks and maybe some kind of ceasefire. Russia didn't obey that. And, I don't want to get too political or anything, but that's also because January is the month of difficulties and arguments and confrontations and, difficulties basically in relationships. So it's a time to bite your tongue. If you already have an issue with somebody, better to just say little and keep your head, in other words.
Good advice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not a good time to be doing that. Then we've got March rather, and December. They're the 2 months when sickness prevails. And I think you would have seen on the news now in December, it was the worst possible time for hospitals and doctors, surgeries and pharmacies and so on around the country, because they've never seen anything like it. But traditionally, December will always be the month when people will fall sick, and so will March. And we had actually a very heightened level of COVID, I think, if I remember rightly, back, was it in 2021?
I got COVID in March. Yes, yeah, and a number of other people.
Yeah, so don't mix with too many people in March, for instance, and December, because it makes sense not to be putting yourself in the way of those energies at that time of the year. And then January and April are the same. So again, April will come around and we'll have a problem again with more litigious situations or arguments and confrontations and so on. So if you're having a little bit of a difficulty with somebody, maybe try and ride it through and see if you can't resolve that issue later in the year. Unfortunately, after April, we have the May and June issue, and that's a time not to be throwing a party. Whatever you do, go on holiday, take it easy, don't decorate, don't renovate your home, don't hammer, bang, play loud music, throw a party, have loads of people traipsing through the house, and do not hire a builder or you will end up in court.
Nina, June, for goodness sake, Ireland is a party animal in the whole of June. This is so we must. Do you know what? That is just. Well, it would be great if we could all just sit out and read in our gardens and relax and enjoy the beautiful sunny evenings.
Unfortunately, it's the better thing to do for sure, because if you try and do anything in May and June, make sure it's in the premises outside of your own home. Like go and have it in a hotel if it's a a function of some kind, or a pub
Or a
premises.
neighbour's garden. Yeah,
Yeah.
not your own.
Take it outside even, and let them use the garden gate. Don't let them use the front door to come in and out.
Really?
Yeah, it's a real problem. May and June is the time not to be disturbing any energy at all. Yeah.
Goodness. And lots of people get married at that time, and
Yeah.
you know, festivals are held.
Yeah,
Gosh,
but you're outside of the home. They're not held in the home.
oh, so you're right. Yes, you're right. Okay.
So in a way, that time of year isn't such a bad thing, you know, to be getting on with. We all have to live. We have to get on with our lives. I mean, there are certain times when you just can't get away from
Mm.
the fact that the months might not be, you know, working in harmony with what you're trying to do yourself. But it's just not the time to be trying to, you know, conduct business and launch products and, you know,
Yeah.
projects
Yeah.
up, perhaps, you know.
Okay. No, that make you know what? That's good to know. I know that lovely story. Sorry to interrupt you now. That story about Chanel picking May the 5th to launch Chanel #5 because it was her, that was the big positive date for her. But obviously there are auspicious times to do this, and that's the wrong energy at May and June. Okay, lovely. So
And
great.
she didn't launch that, hopefully, in her house. She did it in the premises, maybe.
This is true.
You know,
Yes.
so that makes a bit of a difference. Now, you know, if you can as well, July and August, wonderful time to be throwing garden parties and relaxing and enjoying the sunshine. You know, not a difficult time at all, as it happens. But watch out in August. Make sure everything is secured in August. It is the time when robbery and thievery happens.
Good.
So careful in August. It's usually when, you know, people do go away in July and
Yes.
August, and then, you know, they get their homes burgled. So that's the time when you have to be on the lookout. August is a difficult month from that
Okay.
point. And then we're back into September, October, November. Wonderful months, really great months for everybody. Very, very good time to be doing things. Very good time for, and actually you can see that in Ireland, everybody's spirits are lifted. I don't know what happens to everyone in September, October, November. It becomes a busy time. I know the focus is there on Christmas, but really most people are getting on with life and things are going quite well for them during the autumnal period.
Okay. Okay.
Those months are good.
That is just wonderful. And so July is okay. We just skipped over there. July, is that?
July is a good time, especially if you want to throw a party and have a good time. It's a great time to be hosting something.
Lovely.
Yeah, and you'll be thought very highly of, and everything will go well.
It all works really well. Oh, listen, that's fantastic, Nina. Thank you for going through all of that. I know that there'll be questions, but so listen, you've been doing so much lately. You've been doing, firstly, you've a hugely successful interior design company, and you've been winning lots of awards. I've been keeping an eye on that. You also recently had a really good workshop, and I looked at, you had it in that lovely place. It's what, a converted church, really, is it? A small converted
like a prayer chapel. Thankfully, there's never been a funeral held there, so I always say to people when they come to the workshops there. But it is a beautiful venue, and people really loved it. The stained glass windows are stunning, aren't they? You can see.
Oh, beautiful. Anybody who would be interested, look up Nina's website and have a look at where she hosts her workshops. But also, you've got something brand new happening in the next couple of weeks. 2 new, is it an interior design courses that you're doing, Nina?
Actually, believe it or not, they have been, we're actually all exhausted because we've been inundated with inquiries, and so much so that actually it was so heavily subscribed, they've had to provide extra tables and chairs. It was a sellout within the first day or two. We actually had to close off the books and close down numbers within only 3 or 4 days. Advertised, and that wasn't even, you know, anything to do with my social media. Actually, as soon as it went out there, everybody signed up for it, which is absolutely fantastic. I can't thank everybody enough, not just for their enthusiasm, but for their interest in interior design, because, you know, it is a passion, and I can't wait to teach them all again. And I think it's my 4th or 5th time doing lessons for them. And this time they've extended the classes for me as well to 10 weeks from 8 weeks. So it's going to be fantastic. And we've actually opened 2 wait lists as well, because we had to. We just had, we didn't have big enough venues to host that many people. So, and I believe there's going to be a lot of stress tomorrow signing people up, because you know, there'll be a lot of gate crashes, I think, at the door trying to get in.
Yes, that's true. And is this because I suppose people developed a whole new relationship with their home over the last number of years and their spaces and the way, and really perhaps even the first time they got to kind of observe or acknowledge how they feel within certain, you know, parts of their home or in their own environment. And do you find that the people now are beginning to look at it in a new light?
Totally. I think definitely there's no doubt about it. The pandemic has changed everything. But there's also a very big change now in interiors. There's a complete sea change because, of course, with sustainability and all of the talk of, you know, the more natural interior, thankfully, people are understanding and realizing now that it is time for us to make some very drastic changes. And of course, there's the issue of energy efficiency and so on as well, and insulation around our homes and so on. So I think you know, at the moment, we're in this very sort of strange sort of situation where we don't really have as much innovation and technology as advanced as it should be for our needs at the moment. And at the same time, we all have this desperate need to make our homes not just more comfortable because we're spending more time in them. We're spending actually up to 98% of our time in our homes now. But on top of that, there are huge issues around the interior health of the home, which I know I talked about before, where there's an awful lot of chemical and toxic buildup within the home, which is suffocating us basically, and we're becoming, you know, sick and suffering from what's known as sick building syndrome and so on. And that's as a direct result of the fact that we are now living in sealed homes, and everything that we're bringing into the home is off-gassing and producing these toxins. So it's a very serious thing to have that sort of chemical overload in the home and not be able to see ways of being able to insulate and make the home more efficient, but for all of us to be able to live within that environment safely. So that's actually a very big issue at the moment. But one thing I would like to mention as I'm talking about that is to go back to what I said last year. Please don't burn scented candles, because unless they are health, you need to really check the ingredients and make sure that they are natural beeswax and that the oils are safe to burn, because an awful lot of those are actually killing us. There's something like 40,000 people a year dying in the UK.
Really?
All of those dangerous chemicals that are coming off those candles. And that's not talking about the forever chemicals that we treat upholstery with and all the plastics that we bring home. So I know people want to probably talk about clutter as well, because it is springtime. And one thing I would say is, let's live not just, you know, sufficiently or efficiently rather as regards energy and lifestyle, but let's look at living sufficiently, where we don't keep bringing all this stuff home into our homes and overstuffing our homes with what is basically killing us. You know, we have a big problem with stuff, and we're sending it out to the rest of the world, and they've had enough of it too. They have no use for it either. So you know, we do have to look at that. You know, you use what you can that you already have, repurpose, reuse, recycle. There's no doubt that is the better way to go. And I know I've talked like that for 20 odd years now, and I'm sure people are sick and tired of hearing it, but we really do have to look at what we're buying.
We finally learned, Nina, I think we finally understood that message. I mean, I think only recently we realized, I wonder, I don't know what any of us thought when we thought we were, our waste was being, you know, somehow dealt with elsewhere. I don't know what we thought was actually happening, but when we see now that it wasn't being dealt with at all, and it's literally just built up, it makes us all think. And I just think there's a lot of time now, or space really, for the likes of our grandmothers who would have had several uses for something before it came to the end of its life. You know, it was repurposed, as you say, all along the way, you know, and I think that really is a place where we're coming to now. I notice even youngsters, my daughter is 28, and her friends and my other daughter's 32, and what they seem to do is they share out their things. And one lady came to one of my daughters the other day and said, you know, she's got a tattoo on her shoulder, and she had a top that she had finished its life with her, and she said it'd be fabulous because it'll show off your tattoo, and now it's got a whole new lease of life in my daughter's wardrobe. So I mean, I just thought, what a great way of, you know, dealing with what we're giving, what we're letting go of, you know, is to
and there's opportunities there as well to upstyle clothing and to make beautiful changes to things that, they haven't had their lifestyle. I mean, actually, there's another thing we do. We'll buy a fabulous dress and we'll wear it once or twice. Is there any point? Like, I just can't understand why we're not looking at maybe separates. They're so much more flexible. We can do so much more with them. But also, I think food waste is a huge area that is really of concern, because what I always tell people in my workshops is that with food waste, it's like a direct crime against nature. Waste not, want not. And my grandmother, that was one of my grandmother's favorite sayings. I'm sure it was of the older generation for everybody, but waste not, want not is something we should be speaking of all the time now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And so does anybody have any questions now? I'm just checking in there. I know, Katie, you were saying you love all those kinds of traditions. Oh, I think that had to do with putting the cloth on the tree. And you said we always put out a scarf or cloth, and it was used for sore throats during the year. Has that to do with, wasn't there Blaise, the Saint Blaise, who, you were blessed in the church with the 2 candles on your throat? But that's interesting because it's merged there. St. Blaise is the 4th of February, I think, or the 2nd of February, which is interesting there, Anne. Somebody says snowdrops. Good. You've been seeing the snowdrops. I think that's wonderful. Gillian, all good. How do we sort the chemical overload, or what can we do to help? That's a big question. There's a big question for you, Nina.
Yeah, I'd love to answer that. The very simple thing, every single night before you go to bed, try and ensure, or in the evening, in the early evening if you want, open all the doors and windows, clear out the air completely, literally change the air in the house. Thankfully, we always have a little bit of a breeze here in Ireland, don't we? So that makes things a little bit easier. It's not about, releasing all the heat into the atmosphere. Unfortunately, that might also happen, but it is very much about, changing the air completely, getting clean air in, and do the same thing again first thing in the morning. And in fact, first thing in the morning, you're going to notice the moisture build up in the house, because it is a living, breathing organism. The house has its own microbiome. It literally is our outer skin. The roof is the same as our skull. The electrical system is the same as our nervous system. Gutters are like tear ducts, and the lymphatic drainage system. There's so much to be said about the house itself. Every area of the home relates to a different organ in the body as well. So, remember that you're looking after the health of the home, you're looking after the health of you. Fix your home, fix yourself, and therefore fix your life. So
Wow.
that's
very powerful.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it, Nina, and I've never actually thought of it before, but that's really interesting. So every part of the house actually relates to some part of our own body, and the better we maintain it and take care of it, the better we're going to feel in it. Is that what? So that's what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, look, I always say to people that the house is like the mansion of the soul. It's where we literally reside, and every house has a spirit. When I go to home, I'm actually communicating with the house as much as I am with the family, or the couple, or the single person who lives there. So whoever the homeowner is, it's not just them that I'm communicating with. It's not just them I'm dealing with. It's the house. So when you're cleaning, clean and sing while you clean, be happy while you're cooking. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that movie, Like Water for Chocolate. It's a Mexican movie, and I always recommend it. I know it's subtitled, but it's a fabulous movie, where you can see as she's stirring the pot and she's laughing, then all the guests, while they're eating the food, are all laughing and they're happy. And then when she's crying and the tears are falling into the pot, then all the guests who sit at the table have exactly the same response. And that's exactly what happens with food. Grow it with love, prepare it with love, and cook it with love, and then sit down and chew your food 100 times a mouthful. Don't shovel it in. I see this in Ireland, and I'm always shocked by how fast people eat. And that's like very disrespectful to all that work and effort that's gone into growing the produce and preparing it and then cooking it, and then you just shovel it in in a few seconds.
I know, and I'm actually guilty of that myself. I've always said, oh my gosh, I'm finished before everybody else in the house, and I probably sit down last as well sometimes. But yes, Nina, we thought of that today when we're looking forward to you coming on this evening, and we said we've really got to revisit this idea of chewing our food much longer time.
And sit down to eat. Like the yes. Happiest families are those who sit down at the table and eat their dinner together. They're the ones that are happier than the people who are standing up or running down the street while they eat. I mean, if you look at the crime rate in the States, for instance, you could literally link it to when fast food took off. And they've done those studies and they've proven the fact that fast food, you know, it just makes for people who don't have the same, you know, thoughts and actions and behaviors. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I know, but you're looking at all the extra, all that awful salt and, you know, treated animal and all the rest of it. Yeah, no, it's a horrible thing. Look, Mary is saying, Mary Hillary says, if we leave scented candles in the store, the shops will stop putting them on the shelves. Okay, Mary, I'm going to say I actually love a scented candle, but I do agree with you. Some of them I noticed in the past would give me a headache if I light it, and then I realized there's obviously something in there that shouldn't be there. I take it you mean the same with those plug-ins.
I was just going to say, absolutely, those plug-in air fresheners, things like Febreze, spray air fresheners. I just don't believe in any of them. I don't even put fabric softener in my laundry. I just don't believe in any of those things. I think they're very dangerous, and I think we really do have to look at the forever chemicals issue as well, because it takes something like 500,000 years, they think, they don't even know, for those chemicals to break down. So, you know, we're just destroying everything, not just killing ourselves. And I mean, we have to ask ourselves why, you know, cancer rates are so high. There you go. It's one
Okay.
thing alone.
Now, Nina, can I ask you, if there was one thing that somebody could do to change the whole, sort of bring in the best possible energy to their home, what would you recommend that to be?
Oh, I have to tell you, there's an answer of 3 different things. They're all simple, and they're all cheap, and they're all easy. The first thing is either replace or wash all your doormats. You must have new energy to come into the house. So change or replace all your doormats. That's such an easy thing to do. Most doormats are now washable, aren't they? And I'm talking about the inner doormat. You know, you can obviously replace the outer doormat if you want as well. But the inner doormat is really very important. The second thing you can do is remove your shoes as soon as you get home. Never ever wear outdoor shoes within the house. It's no good for your feet anyway, but on top of that, you're walking COVID and all of those awful yucky bacteria and lurgies into the house and all around the house, right up to your bedroom and so on. So never ever wear your outdoor shoes indoors. There is a difference between energies outside that you don't want to bring home with you. Dirty energy, other people's energy, energies off the street, you know, dog's feces, all of those things are out there. Why would you want to traipse that through your home? So it's much better for your feet as well to have a change of footwear, and always make your guests do the same thing when they come to your home. They should take their shoes off at the entrance. It's done throughout most of the world. You would see that in Canada, you would see it in the Far East, you would see it everywhere. You know, people are very particular about that because you're walking the wrong energy into the home, not just all those viruses and bacteria. And remember that, you know, our biggest enemy now is the tiniest organisms. That's probably what's going to wipe out the human race, not something big and catastrophic. It's probably going to be something tiny. So we do need to look at you know, antimicrobial surfaces and how much, you know, not using too much in the way of cleaning agents. We do need to let our immune system get used to some dirt, but we certainly don't need to be getting used to outside dirt and other people's dirt that comes from their homes as well. So don't traipse other people's dirt into your home. And then the third thing I would always suggest is to, and I've said this last year, I know, is to put small bowls, open bowls of salt in every single corner of every room in the house. Very, very important to do that at the start of the year. Make sure that you put an open bowl of salt in every corner of every room in the house. Just ordinary white salt. It should be enough that you can actually see the salt, obviously the dish, like a good few tablespoons in each dish is a good idea. And then make sure that every single month you throw away that salt. You obviously don't use it for anything, you throw it away. But that will help to restore the yin and yang balance, and it will bring a lot of calm and good fortune to everybody. And I don't know if you want me to tell you about how to increase your luck. That might help as well.
Yes, please. We're all enthusiastic for that. Thank you, Nina.
Okay, well, one of the things that if you know, when you really think about luck, what is luck? And it's really about positivity. It's about a lot of different things. It's about positive action. It's about good deeds. It's about gratitude and valuing what we all have. I mean, aren't we very blessed that war didn't come to our doorstep? And aren't we very blessed that we're all relatively, comfortable and set up pretty well in our homes and in our jobs or businesses and so on. I mean, we really are very, very fortunate in this country, and we don't even appreciate it. Our peace could be shattered in the morning. So I think value what we have, value each other. And I really think it's very important to, we used to do this. We used to say grace at every meal, but just say, good grub, good God, let's eat. That's good enough, isn't it? Just say thanks for what we have, because what we have to eat, my God, there was a time when people were literally starving by the side of the road, and we must never, ever forget that. So we are eating too much, we're buying too much, we're stuffing our homes with far too much. Let's take a step back and reduce all of that, reduce your waste and reduce how much you consume. You shouldn't be eating as much. One meal a day is absolutely adequate. Otherwise, that greed is beginning to tell on everybody. Obesity is becoming an issue. And I mean, I even know I'm a little bit overweight. There's no doubt we're all eating too much. And it is difficult in a cold climate, but eat less and take less from Mother Earth. We call her Mother Earth because it's not just Mother Nature. And do good deeds to Mother Nature. Any kind of crimes against Mother Nature are really very serious. So as soon as you look after Mother Nature, she'll look after you. Look after the birds in the garden, look after the bees out there, encourage the butterflies, do all you can with your gardens to encourage, wildlife and nature to come into your gardens. Make sure that you are at least appreciating your family members. I know they can get on your nerves, and I know our halo tends to slip at times, but it's good to do good deeds, not just for strangers, but for the people we care about. And if you can keep either a thank you journal or even say your supposed prayers, I suppose. Remember in the old days, we say our prayers at night. We don't even do that anymore, do we? But if we can just give out love and thanks and send blessings to everybody and really appreciate what we gained in the day, I think that would be a very big improvement on our luck. So lots of things that would improve your luck. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much for that. Now, another person has said, you're identifying themselves as a number, so I can't say who it is, but any tips on how to improve calm in myself?
Okay.
So a lot of what you said there would actually...
A lot of that would help. But
go ahead, yes.
Most people who have a problem with anxiety, and by the way, anxiety is the biggest growing disease in the world today. Stress is a huge issue. And I know there's something for everybody in this, because we can't get away from stress, but actually our coping mechanisms are relatively poor. I really think we should look at how do we deal with stress, because it's all really very much about perception and perspective. So first and foremost, if something is getting to you over and over and over again, then it's down to you really to either deal with that issue and stop it from causing you that stress. Or maybe you need to just handle it differently, change your perception of things, and maybe treat it differently in that way, because we do have to get to the point where we're managing our stress levels in a different way. So the other issue that brings stress about greatly actually is toxins, and most of us do have a very big problem with toxins, because people smoke, they drink, they eat a lot of red meat, and you shouldn't really eat red meat more than once a month, because not everybody has the same metabolic rate. So that meat should not be staying in our system. And a lot of it does rot and remain in the guts. And that's, again, one of the reasons why we have such a high incidence of things like bowel cancer. So cut back on, alcohol. I know I'm saying something that's probably going to make everybody go, oh no, my glass of wine, but actually it's a glass of sugar. Sugar is a really serious toxin. Then we've got alcohol, we've got nicotine, we've got drugs. And, whether we like it or not, there's plenty of people out there doing drugs and enjoying a bit of wacky and whatever else. But really, that can burn the nerve endings of the brain. Human body's not designed to take these things in its stride. And prescription medications are also becoming a very big issue for people. I mean, there's more Prozac in our water supply now than they have in America.
I read that recently.
Ridiculous. Yes. What's in our water supply. So we have to really look at that. And the more painkillers you take, for instance, the more damage you're doing in the liver. And the liver is the most important organ in the body. It is responsible 24 hours a day for doing every single thing. It is the factory that keeps us healthy. So if anything goes wrong with your liver, you've had it. So look after your liver. Don't put too much dairy into your diet. Don't put too much alcohol into the diet. It's kind of obvious, isn't it? So reduce what you are consuming in terms of the wrong stuff. And sugar, of course, being top of the list. Things like potatoes, white rice, white pasta, they all turn to sugar in the stomach. So there's no point in eating that kind of food and saying, why can't I lose weight? Bread is another problem. We should be just replacing that with grain. That would be so much more healthy. It would give us the fiber we need, and it would give us the energy we need. Eat your porridge in the mornings, add your seeds and nuts and berries to that, and have a clear soup during the day, perhaps when it's your light meal, or whenever you eat your light meal, it might be in the evening, and maybe a wrap with that. And then in the evening, have something like salmon that's steamed along with it, with steamed vegetables and a grain. And that way you've had grain a second time of the day. That way your whole digestive system, all the energy and what you're putting into your blood, which is going around the entire system, is changed every 24 hours. We need to look at a balance, really. And the more toxins we have, the less balance we have up here in the brain. That's what makes us suffer from things like brain fog. It's what causes inflammation in the system, and it's what causes fatigue. There's a lot of issues actually that result from too much sugar, particularly because alcohol, of course, is going to add to that problem with sugar as well. So yeah, so coming back on those things gives us more clarity. I think there's no doubt about it. The clearer our mind, the more we will go about living purposeful lives and making the right decisions and shortcutting, circumventing all these problems and issues that we have in our lives. I think live simply and think straight. Have some clarity of mind. I think it's very important for your purpose.
Wonderful. I think that very definitely answered your question there. That person who asked about improving calm in yourself. It's really about really being very observant, noticing what, where, when you feel perhaps more anxious and the rest of it, and then taking steps to reduce that. And there's so much, as you quite rightly said, there's so many things that we can do for ourselves before and along with professionals. So thank you so much, Nina, for you've brought us so much information this evening and a lot to digest. I know lots of people were making notes as we were going through there. I'm out to clean the gutters in the next couple of days because that definitely needs to be done. And as for the stagnant pot, the water in stagnant pots, I've been noticing that because we've got some pots that have no plants in them at the moment, but they're sitting there with puddles of water in them. So we definitely have some work to do in the coming days. Before Nina goes, does anybody have one last question they want to ask, or is there anything, Nina, you want to add before you go?
Well, gosh, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think clutter is always a big issue, isn't it, for people? And just going back to that person who had the problem with, trying to find peace of mind and a state of calm. I think everybody's looking for that. So one of the things that will create a very big problem for people is if they're sleeping in a bed and their headboard is against a wall behind which there's a toilet. And I know I keep saying that every year. In all of my talks, I try and mention that, but try not to, even if it were 20 rooms away, make sure to check that you don't have a toilet in a room behind the wall against which your headboard sits. That way your head won't be down the toilet. I'm sure that makes complete sense. It's just, Feng Shui is very logical. And there's some very obvious taboos. I know there's so many taboos, it would be hard to go through them all in all of these talks, but I try and mention the things that are most serious and that you can fix yourself. Things like the footboard of the bed, don't align it to an exit door, even if the exit door is 20 rooms down. And I'm not talking about the door into the bedroom specifically, I'm talking about an exit door from the property. Whether it's a front door, a patio door, a sliding door, a utility door, doors to the garden and so on. Just make sure that you don't align the footboard of the bed with an exit door, even if it's 20 floors down, because that is known as the coffin position. And it's universally known. It's guaranteed to create a problem for you. That's very serious.
Well, I know that you have gone into people's homes where there have been all kinds of disharmony and other issues. And as a result of the work that you do with them, and health issues as well, and that kind of thing, a lot of those things have been resolved. So, Nina, I love everything you have to say. It is always so refreshing and eye-opening, and sort of gives us something to think about. There's always plenty of meat to go away with having listened to you. So look, if anybody wants to, I know you're booked out. But if anybody wants to know more about any of your courses, they can find that on your website. There's lots on your website, actually. Anybody who just wants to have a look and see what's possible for them, go and have a look. And you've got some clips and some videos and that sort of thing there as well, which is great.
Social media is even better again, because I have to confess, my website isn't even up to date.
Your website.
I've just had such a busy couple of years since we first created the website, so it has been non-stop go go go. So I am going to try and do my level best to get on top of that now the next couple of months. But just to mention that my social media would probably be even better again.
A good page to go to. Okay, that's Nina Kati, interior design consultant, is your social media page, isn't that right?
Yeah, you just look me up as Nina Kati, Feng Shui interior design, and you should find all the information you need there on social media. So thank you, and thank you all of you, and I'll answer any other questions if you do need me to. Thank you so much for having me.
Nina, thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you again. And anytime you want to come back and talk to us, please do. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Okay, so look, we're going to let. Oh, actually, just before you go, just before I let you all go, this evening I did choose 3 cards. We haven't done that for a while. If anybody wants to, we can have you can have it stop and have a think. Just bring something, bring your mind to your heart. Put your hands over your heart if you like. What do I need to know? What is it important for me to know right now? I've drawn 3 cards earlier on today. And I've got them here now. So if you want to choose in your head 1, 2, or 3, that way then the relevant 1, 2, or 3 card will be for you. I won't go into too much. It's for you to take the message from the card. So we just leave it with that. So card number 1 is the Divine Director. And this card is the intervention and purpose. Divine intervention is occurring, and know that you are being guided. Happiness is your purpose. Divine intervention is occurring. Know that you are being guided. Happiness is your purpose. If card number 1 is for you, that's your message this evening. I'm going to let you interpret that for yourself. It's more important. Lady Nada is card number 2, and she's absolutely beautiful. It's about a heart awakening. Awaken to acceptance of divine love, give and receive in balance. And that's the beautiful card. Awaken to the acceptance of divine love, give and receive in balance. And so often, okay, so I have to put a little bit with this. So often we ask for our needs to be met, but then we decide how that's going to happen. And in doing that, we can close the door on all kinds of ways in which we will have our needs met, or we get answers to our prayers and that kind of thing. This is about opening to receiving love, opening to receiving all that you need for yourself. Be aware of that. When you need something, it's not just about asking for a prayer to be answered. It's about remembering to be open to receive. And sometimes we have to really work at that. We're all very good, maybe tending to other people and their needs, but you have to take care and be prepared to say yes and thank you when people offer help. Kuan Yin, the beautiful goddess Kuan Yin, care and compassion is card number 3. Choose to be love. Do what is right for everyone involved. Offer a helping hand. Okay, so it's asking for compassion, and compassion not just for others, but for yourself sometimes too. And sometimes when we don't know what to do, when we don't know how to take care of a situation, what happens is if we feel ourselves overwhelmed, we kind of think, what can we do? What can we do? And very often, do something just for yourself, and that in itself can begin the process of being able to deal with situations that are going on in your life. So do what you need. You know, some self-care is a very important thing too, but keeping your heart open for care and compassion, as much for you as it is for others. Okay, I will leave it at that. And thank you very much, everybody. And I look forward, if anyone has questions for Nina or for myself or whatever else, don't be afraid to send Nina an email. You'll find all her details on her social media page or on her website again. Look, everyone, have a wonderful St. Bridget's Day. Have a fabulous St. Bridget's weekend. And I look forward to hearing how you're all welcoming spring, and lots of other things, and what everybody's doing about making sure January and February work really well energetically for us all. Nina, again, thank you so very much for being a part of this evening for us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everybody. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Nina.
Everyone who knows me. Lovely to see you all. Bye. Take care.
Thanks
Bye
a
now.
million. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Trina.
Thank you. Bye-bye.